Fearless Flight Live. Welcome back. This is the place where you hang out if you have a fear of flying, if you know somebody who has a fear of flying, or you just like to talk about aviation and airplanes and listen to stories from, not East, is it East Snowshoe, Eric?
East Overshoe.
Overshoe. All right. One of these years I'll remember that. Anyway, that's a famous location that Eric brings up every week. Speaking of Eric, Eric's back with us this week. He's our resident co-captain with me, and we got Diane, our other crew member. She's the only one active amongst of us, so she's probably got the truest skinny. And then we also have Elaine, who lives out in Orange County. Is it, Elaine?
Southern California, yeah.
She's been through the program, and she is one of our able volunteers. And then Dieter Staudinger, who helped me set up all this stuff. And so if it's good, it's my fault. If it's not good, it's Dieter's fault. No, not really. So anyway, but thanks for joining us this week.
That's the guy you are, Rob.
The first thing we want to talk about is we normally talk about the birds of a feather. I'm going to slip that down a little bit. We'll talk about the agenda that we've got for tonight, and that is that we're going to, the 101 class, we'll talk about that briefly. We have a special guest who's just fresh from flying, and we're excited to hear her story. You can see I've crossed out number 3 for the second week in a row. We just had too much content tonight with the questions that have come in and the little thing that a special celebration we're going to have here. And I have a little bit on aviation news update, and then we have a question or two that came in from all of you out there. And I wanted to talk about the feed a little bit here. So here's our poll question for tonight. And it is, how do you feel about flying in clouds? That was a thread that got my attention in the Birds of a Feather group this week. And so I brought in some information, which I'm going to discuss just briefly down there. Doesn't bother you one way or the other. Some people, not crazy about it, but you don't like it, but you're not crazy about it. And then 3 is, or C is no way. Do you want to do that? So Eric and I will address that here in just a little bit there. The class, once again, we've got that up and running. If you're on our list, you're going to be getting a notice here shortly so that if you happen to live in the Phoenix area, even if you've come before, or you're going to be in the Phoenix area on May 1st, we got several people already have expressed an interest from Southern California that are going to come over. We want to make sure that you get notice and get registered for our first live in-person fear of flying class, free class that we do, the CFT 101, Clever Takeoff 101, at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport on May 1st again. First one in 14 months, I believe.
Wow.
At least. Yeah. So we've got a lot of pent-up demand that we're counting on. We got the airport behind us, and the great folks from Southwest Airlines are going to let us use one of their airplanes. They made me promise that I would not give Eric the keys so that he would be tempted.
Oh,
okay,
bummer.
That's a joke. There's no such thing as keys to an airliner, folks. All you got to do is know how to get it started and a little help from your friends. So I'm going to turn it over here. We're going to go into a little bit of discussion about the Birds of Feather group, because we have a winner. And first, I'm going to turn it over to Elaine, who has posted our tip for the week. Tip Tuesday.
Tip Tuesday, make a connection. Don't be afraid to tell people that you are afraid to fly. I mean, tell the gate agent, tell the pilot, even tell your seatmate, because doing so creates a connection between you and other people. Because sometimes being a fearful flyer, you think, oh, I'm the only one who feels this way. You would be absolutely amazed how supportive people are. So don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to talk to your seatmate or the flight attendant. And with that, Diane is going to add some of her flight attendant expertise in dealing with fearful flyers.
Right. Thanks, Elaine. All the time for all of the evenings, we always talk about making sure that you connect with the pilots. So when you board, you ask the forward flight attendant, could I chat with the captain or the first officer, because I'm a little bit concerned, a little bit nervous about flying. And that's a wonderful thing to do. And certainly if they have if they have time, they're going to come out. One of them will come out and talk with you. The thing is that once the flight deck doors closed, you're not going to be able to chat with them anymore. The only people you're really going to be able to chat with are the flight attendants. So as Elaine said, if you have a seatmate that you can feel comfortable, or you sort of look at one another and you both have kind of that deer in the headlight eyes, so you know that maybe you're both concerned, that's a wonderful resource. But the people that are going to be the most, not unless you are sitting next to a pilot or a flight attendant, the people who are going to be the most knowledgeable to answer those kinds of questions you have are your flight attendants. And that's one of the things that we are trained to deal with. So I urge you, when you get on board, if you've had an opportunity, after you've talked with the pilots, please, because there'll be at least 2 flight attendants, please make yourself known and your concerns known to both of the flight attendants so that they can come by and check on you during the course of the flight. I had a couple of folks just in my last trip, and I was able to explain to them the different sounds, the different chimes, what all those kinds of things meant, and also dealing with turbulence, and it's a big speed bump, so that they were much more comfortable during the course of the flight. So do, as well as the pilots, do make yourself known to the flight attendants.
You are actually training your crew when you ask to disclose to the flight attendant and ask to meet the pilots up there. And that's one of the times you want to talk to the pilots. The other one is if you have a bad experience on the flight, you have turbulence and you get really shaken up by it, make sure that you ask the pilots on the way out, hey, were we in any danger, or whatever words come to mind, because you don't want to take that anxiety with you, because it will grow in the time before your next flight, or you may not want to fly again. So don't leave that anxiety on the airplane where it belongs. And I was going to have Diane show us her startled look, so that just because the flight attendant has a startled look from time to time, the pilots probably have a bigger one. Okay. Yeah. So those of you who look to the flight attendant to say, oh my God, should I get on my knees and start counting rosary beads? No, the flight attendant is just as susceptible as you are to startle response if we get a sudden jolt or something like that. So don't freak out about that. And you might just make a joke out of it and say, hey, got you too, huh? So, yeah, whatever. Everybody.
That does happen. And very often, if we're walking up and down the aisle and there's something, we get startled. Keep in mind, we're trying not to fall on you. So right. That's part of our startle.
And my favorite story from one of my coaching students said what triggered her fear was she was happened to be a Southwest airplane, and a flight attendant walked by and they were getting some pretty good jolts, and she went down on one knee for a moment, and as she was going down right next to my student there, she said, oh my God, we're gonna die. So even with that,
oh, great.
Do not worry. That's just a momentary reaction. Everybody has one. So, all right. All right. So now we have a special announcement, right? Where Birds of a Feather is kind of the theme tonight. And
yes.
And what happened? Finally, Elaine.
We have a winner, member number 700. Congratulations to Stephanie Tolbert Calvarisi. I hope I pronounced that right. You have won your choice of either the Fearless Flight Kit or a 1-hour coaching phone call with Captain Ron. So again, congratulations on being member number 7, and stay tuned for future giveaways.
And what a cool thing. I just talked to Stephanie. I called her just before the show, and she's a little bit shy, among other things. So she was going to pass on us publicly putting her in view there. But the timing is everything, because she had signed up for a free 15-minute coaching call, which we encourage all of you to do for tomorrow, of all things. And she has a flight on Sunday morning. So the timing couldn't be better for her. She was really, really pleased to find out that she won. So we'll see if we can't get her to come back and talk to us after the flight on Sunday there. I want to again kind of highlight the Birds of a Feather here and tell you our special guest that I'm going to introduce in just a minute. The way I learned about her was my own monitoring of the Birds of a Feather group and my own participation. We all try to be active in there. And so it was a thread just like this one. And just yesterday, Sarah McKinley asked a question about clouds that generated a really great discussion. And, so Sarah put in the feed there, she said, my fear of clouds is that we'll run into another plane and then perish. Now, I know not everybody has that, but that's why we put it in the question tonight. I had a lot of people jump in there for support. Good old Walter said clouds are basically a visible mass of condensed water vapor floating in the atmosphere. And do they always have turbulence around them? No. As a matter of fact, the ones that have a lot of rain with not much volume to the clouds, they're called stratiform clouds. You see those are pretty benign. They have a lot of water in them, but they don't have convection like thunderstorms do in the summer. The thunderstorms, the big boomers, those have a lot of convection in them. So those are the ones we avoid, and we use our radar diligently, and our iPads now that Eric is going to talk about next week. We'll talk about how we use active pilots use iPads in there. Don Calvert, I want to highlight him. Don's been a great participant there. He said fear of flying is not that overwhelming deal for him. He's never avoided a flight like that, but he just stays connected to keep his courage up. Those are my words, not Don's. But I like his participation. And he talks about he has an irrational fear that turbulence equals danger for a plane. I need to keep working on dispelling that. I also tend to watch documentaries on plane accidents. I don't know why I find them interesting, but I probably should cool it on that. It's like everybody slows down to watch the accident on the freeway, right? We have this tendency that we want to, see what's going on, and sometimes even have this morbid sense that, we want to see if anybody's hurt and all that. So it's not a bad thing unless it's sustaining your anxiety. So don't recommend doing that. Christina Boazzi, I think it is. She says she loves watching YouTube videos of flight reviews from passenger perspectives and flight attendants because they are so calm. So people like Diane are out there doing the work, and she loves hearing from people like Diane on why they do it, how they can do it. She definitely hates flying, but she wants to enjoy it, and so she's gonna keep working to get rid of this. Had a fun comment from Hurley, Lorraine, Angela. I'm not sure if those are the names the way they're listed in that order, but she said, "Oh, takeoff is the worst for me. Any kind of turbulence, holy tofu." So for this week, I put that as my favorite expression that I've heard and not heard before. Sarah McKinley, Eric and I, we're just going to banter about this for just a minute. I put 3 things about clouds on there. One is their visible moisture, like Walter says, and that have become so. When the air rises and the temperature drops to below something called the dew point, that means the air can no longer hold any water vapor, so it comes out and condenses. Okay, you see it every time you boil potatoes or do anything like that. You see water up on the top because it's condensing. It can't stay in water vapor anymore. You fly through clouds every time you venture out in the fog. It's the same thing. It's when the temperature and the dew point have come close enough on the planet Earth to turn the humidity in the air into clouds. But the difference is, which is the important thing, is the third thing about that is you don't have anybody protecting you. We have a bubble around us. Air traffic control puts a bubble in us either 3 miles wide or 5 miles wide, depending on how far we are from an airport. And 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below, or 500 feet above, 500 feet below. And so we have protection, and that's the way we protect ourselves. That's why we don't have to worry going into the clouds. And you have to be on a special clearance. And the agreement that we make is that we will all agree to those rules and abide by them. And underneath all that, we've got radar. Anything else, Eric, that I've
Yeah, I was gonna mention they're all gonna go, what if air traffic control lies or makes a mistake or the other guys violated clearance? We now have a thing called the TCAS, our acronym, Traffic and Collision Avoidance System. And it really is, if people are bass fishermen, they'll get it right away, but it looks like a little fish finder, and it displays all the other airplanes around us. And it displays them in color as if they're just, if they're white, they're just proximate traffic, somebody's there.
I'll be your model, Eric.
Oh, good. That will never, that they're far apart, they're just white, they're not going to be a threat. And if they're colored yellow, they could cross your flight path. And if they go to red, there's going to be a threat to your envelope of flight that Ron is talking about, and the system will start giving commands to your airplane to tell you how to avoid the other airplane. And it's so smart, it gives commands to the other airplane to tell it how to avoid you. So ultimately, even if we were talking to no one, we would have this system helping us avoid any other aircraft flying that we could either see or not see. And it's also very helpful at night when it's, even though you can see lights, it's unclear the relative motion and position. TCAS is a very neat system.
Yeah. So with the problem, like, you know, if you ever run into somebody on the hall or even out in the open space and you're both going to avoid each other and both go to the same direction and then the other way, that's what TCAS is all about. So that it leaves humans out of it and it comes up with its own resolution for that. So anyway, so flying in clouds, not really a big deal at all. And Eric and I talk about how when flying gets interesting for us, because it's really pretty boring, sometimes it gets a little scary for you. And I know you'd rather have us be bored than you be scared. So we'll try and keep it that way. And the reality is we don't have much time that we actually have to take off and land in those conditions as well. So, all right. Now, our guest now, like I said, I got her off of Facebook, Holy Tofu. She was getting ready to fly, and I just volunteered to, you know, if we could help or support her in any way. But she used the system better than anybody that I've ever seen. She wouldn't talk to me. I didn't take it personally, but you know, we exchanged a couple of emails and all that, or a couple of messages there. But Deanna Prescott from Scottsdale, with an interesting twist on her name. I saw Deanna just about a month ago or so, and she confirmed that before the show. So Deanna, if you want to come on and welcome to this. Thanks for having the courage to stand up and tell everybody about your history there. And here's I'm going to read this. This is the comment that got me. It says, "Hi everyone, I did it, and I wanted to thank everyone for helping me. I was super nervous getting on the plane. I was tossed on which seat to pick. I wound up sitting in the back. Thought it would be better with COVID. The ride was very bumpy, especially landing due to the weather. I told myself every time the plane bounced, it was annoying rather than stress myself out. I also played a game with my left hand to get my mind off things. Walking through your fears is an amazing feeling. I flew Delta, and they were awesome. They owe you a free ticket for that one, Diana. So anyway, so welcome, Deanna. And so just, you know, tell us a little bit about, you know, when you first realized you were afraid and, you know, and how that played out for you.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I have always been afraid of flying. I'm actually the type of person, I've gotten onto airplanes before. The pilot came across the speaker and said, we are going to be having a very bumpy flight. I have gotten off of flights. I asked the stewardess, can you please let me off the plane? They said, are you sure? I said, yes. I always panic flying. I am so scared of turbulence. That's the one thing I have been afraid of.
Was that what, you know, did you have a bad experience and then you quit flying, or you flew a lot less? You know, did that turn you into not flying, or, you know, what was the history on that?
It pretty much steered me away from not flying.
Okay.
The turbulence pretty much, I guess, had control over me. So that basically stopped me from flying, getting on an airplane. I had this really big trip back to New York planned. Yeah, I was very, very anxious. I was very scared. So I did a Google search and you came up, and I joined the group, and I just started going back into previous posts and just reading everybody's posts in there. And we did exchange some emails and everything. And the main thing that you said to me, you explained how turbulence, it's annoying that it's not dangerous. So I just kept telling myself over and over and over that turbulence is not dangerous. It's annoying. And I took that in my head, and I just had it stick in my head. And I saw the suggestions on there, you know, play a game with your opposite hand, or right. Write your name with your opposite hand. I did see the straw comment, but with the masks and everything, you know,
yeah,
I wasn't going to be able to do that.
Sure.
So I left for Phoenix, or I think it was about over a week ago.
Yeah.
And I gave myself enough time at the airport. I think I got there 3 hours early. I was waiting to board the flight. I looked at the pilots, I was like, okay, they look really, really good. I feel confident. I walked.
Did you introduce yourself to them? Did you meet them or no? Okay.
I was too scared.
I got it. I understand.
The plane actually was delayed. They said because of safety issues. And I said, great. So I looked out the window, and what do I see? I see the safety, I guess the mechanics up by the pilot's window. And I said, oh my God, I said, this has to be happening right now. And then they cleared us that we're okay. Normally, I would have said, I am not getting on this airplane after seeing that. But
this was before the boarding started.
Yeah, this was before the boarding.
Okay.
So I got on, and I also knew at that time when I was going to be going into New York that it was going to be very bad weather. And I was petrified of that. Plus, I was sitting all the way in the back because I said I didn't want to sit. I was tossed, either sit in the middle of the airplane or sit in the back because it said that there was less people back there. So I got on. I asked the stewardess. I said, is the plane okay? Are we okay to fly? And she said yes. And she knew I was nervous. And she said she asked what seat I was in and that she would check up on me. We took off. I have to be honest with you that this flight probably was one of the worst flights I've taken. It was very turbulent throughout the whole entire flight. We were getting to New York. The pilot gets on and he said, folks, we're going to be having some bumpy weather. Make sure you have the seatbelts on. And as soon as he said that, my hand, it was on the seat. This is how bumpy it was. My hand went up in the air and then down, like the seat rest came up.
Right.
And I just looked around at everybody and everybody was calm. And all I kept doing was I played the game with my left hand. And that's what I did. And I just said, this is annoying. This is annoying. This is annoying. I must have said annoying about 2,000 times. And we landed and I was like, wow, I can't believe I did it. I cannot believe I walked through this fear in the rain, in the wind. I mean, I was scared flying.
And there are some people, Deanna, right now who are saying she wasn't that bad. If she could do that, and it's amazing though, isn't it? How simple, and you change the way you thought, know, and at first it has to be mechanical. You started with this is not dangerous, it's annoying, but you just made it a mantra. And, and it's definitely, it's still being competed with, like, right. You still had anxiety. But you made friends with your anxiety, and that's really the first step in getting more and more comfortable when you're flying. That's an amazing job. Yeah.
Yeah, and I you know what? I just put my trust in the pilots because it's very scary to give you trust when you don't have control over something and in somebody else's hands. It's like, whoa. And then coming back, my luck would have it, there was so much fog coming out of JFK, and I said, this is not good. And
speaking of low visibility, right?
Yeah, it was really bad. And then we were about to take off, and I look over to the left, and it was starting to rain. And I said, I am not looking. And I kept my window down, and we took off. Takeoff was great. We did have some turbulence. Well, we did have turbulence, and the pilot came on and he said, folks, we're going to be hitting rough air. So I leave my seatbelt on the whole entire time.
Which is really good. As long as you're in your seat, there's no reason to undo it, to be honest.
No, I stay put. I am not moving.
Yeah.
And this time what I did was I wrote my name in my left hand on a piece of paper. And when the pilot came on and said, this is going to be bumpy weather. So I'm bracing myself saying, okay, this is going to be like the first flight I took. It wasn't bad. I was like, that's it? Are you serious? And
Bring it on, right? Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm comparing everything to the first flight. And when we were getting over the mountains, I guess more toward Phoenix, I could feel like more turbulence. And I said, okay, because I remember you saying something maybe in one of the shows, when you go over to the mountains, it's going to be a little more bumpy. And that's when I was like, okay, this is all normal. It's annoying. We're okay. And then I just looked out the window and I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. And, it's a huge accomplishment because I petrified of flying. And I just want to say thank you to everybody and to the show. And, you know, if it wasn't for you guys, I would still be living in that fear, you know, allowing that fear to control me. And, you know, when you land, it's like, whoa, you just did it. You know, congratulations, you did it.
Great. That's great.
So it was really good.
So when you landed in New York, did you feel good about the whole experience, even though it was bumpy and stuff there? And did that make it less likely that you would obsess about it and ruin your visit with your family?
I mean, I have to be honest, I was tired. I was really, really tired after
Sure.
that flight, because I was not expecting the whole flight to be that bumpy at all.
Right.
And then going in for that bumpy landing, I was not expecting that. But other than that, I was fine on the vacation. I started to get a little nervous, you know, the day before I was flying. So I got up at like 4 a.m. I got to the airport at 6 for like a 9:20 flight. But, you know, I highly recommend getting to the airport early so you don't feel rushed, you know, go through security, sit down, watch the other airplanes taking off, landing, just tell yourself, you know what, they're taking off, everything is fine. And you just to give yourself that peace of mind, which is good.
And really nice job. You know, I mean, we appreciate the gratitude you express to us and the other people in the group, but you need to pat yourself on the back and say, way to go, Deanna, because you're the one that stepped up. And it really is, it's sad how many people will not take the steps that you did, because it is relatively easy to get over, but it does take perseverance, it takes commitment, and it takes trust in yourself, and just keep going like that. So any words of wisdom for anybody out there that you know would be in your position where you were you know, a month ago or 6 weeks ago or however long it was? What advice would you? Go ahead, Deanna.
Do you remember what I always say when turbulence happens?
No.
When the pilots want to eat. And so I'm just thinking how crabby they must have been by the time they left Phoenix and went to New York. If they took a beating the whole way there, they must have been in an ugly mood by the time you showed up.
So you have to laugh. That's the only price to attend the show here, is you have to laugh at Eric's joke. So but a great job. And in particular, you didn't formally, you know, invite yourself to meet the pilots or anything, but you did let the flight attendant know. And did she come back and check on you during the flight?
Yeah, she was very nice. And then when I was getting off the airplane, the pilots were standing there, because I waited till everybody got off, and I made sure to thank them.
Yeah. Nice job. Anything
else? I was
else?
just too nervous.
Yeah, that's a great job, and congratulations. You deserve all the joy that looks like you had, and you should be really, really proud of and satisfied with yourself. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
And other than our comments back and forth, you didn't do any coaching or anything. You just relied on the group, which is a real tribute to you and the people in the group there. So we're looking forward to having you. I hope you can come and talk to one of the classes coming up in the future there, and just really want to thank you for making yourself vulnerable. If we have any questions, maybe for her, Dieter, that from somebody.
Yeah, there's been a really awesome, lively conversation going on, and so much of what you modeled, Deanna, is having the courage to step, you know, into and engage. And Oliver is so true. He said it's a place, the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather group is a place where he feels safe, where he can share his crazy and not, you know, be made more crazy, so to speak, but actually get some real good support and feedback. And it's wonderful to just see how you, in that short amount of time, really turn it around. And you know, it's a journey for you still, you know, and it's a continuation. And so that's really cool. And that was a great thread going on. Couple questions. Number one, the question was the Fearless Flight 101 classes. They are going to be, until further notice, monthly.
Right.
And Erin, one of our Birds of a Feather members and local Phoenix residents, will work out somehow with Captain Ron and maybe Diane, if we can figure out some live streaming because there's no way for me to get out of Canada and into the US and back. We're trying our best. I know we have a bunch of people who are interested from the San Diego area. So use the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather group as your own rideshare kind of board if you want. So reach out, ask and see if that's something other people were thinking about as well. And then there was one question, Elaine.
Yes.
Can you maybe ask that question, that last
one? Just learning how to talk again. Deborah McDonald Rogers was asking if there's been anything further on the Southwest Airlines engine fire with the fan blades. Apparently there was a faulty fan blade that had broken off. I believe it was the flight over Colorado that was dropping debris. It wasn't Southwest.
Yeah, it was United. And no, there was another incident like that 2 years ago, which is much further along in the investigative process and all that. But they pretty well have identified it. The things we talked about in previous shows it was only United, JAL, and you remember the other airline, Eric? One other airline. Aviana, and those are the only 3 airlines flying the 777, the Boeing 777, with that particular engine on it, and it happens to have hollow fan blades, which they're all over it, and so if you're flying on any other airline, you're not going to have to worry about that, and if you're flying on a United 777, you're not going to have to worry about it either because they've put out an AD on that, so they can't fly that airplane or that engine without dealing with that there. So, hey, I want to thank Deanna before she left there, but she dropped off us anyways. And one of the things I want to highlight about what Deanna said, she said, I have this mantra about it's not dangerous, it's just annoying. And she talked about writing with her left hand. I get this a lot with people. People say, well, what does the harmonizer do? What does this do? And I talk to people about whatever they do, you have to lean into it. Well, what does lean into it mean? Have you ever had an assignment in school or college where you were told to read an assignment and your heart just wasn't in it? And so you read it to get through it, but you didn't read it to comprehend anything. That's the difference between leaning into something and not leaning into it. You could say the same mantra that Deanna did, this is not, dangerous, it's just annoying. It's not going to do any difference because your unconscious is dominating that. It's saying, go ahead and say that all you want. We ain't buying it. Okay. So it's a subtle difference in that, but that's why one of the things about the Fearless Flight Kit and the harmonizer in particular is you don't have to do the talking, at least initially. We help you with my voice and 3 other voices on that so that you can disrupt and disrupt. Come on, don't fail me, brain. And anyway, you can disengage from those thoughts and overcome that little voice that wants to just drag you down in negativity. So, okay, let's move on to, unless we have any other questions, I want to get to the slide 24, I think it is, Dieter. I want to, that the expert, I just want to make a quick mention again. If you're looking for a place to get started, this is a free download. It's our expert turbulence and takeoff guide. It's a great way if you have any issues with turbulence or takeoff. And then you can do that, download it and enjoy it and start making some differences in the way you think about flying. One little piece on aviation news update this week. It's the Top Gun is going to be in the news because it was such a successful movie when it was first launched. And you may know not Tom Hanks, Tom
Cruise.
Cruise. Oh my
Tom
God.
Cruise.
Yeah, he's got a sequel coming out. And there was a headline that said Maverick star Jennifer Connelly says she just got over a crippling fear before shooting the film. And the reason she did was because she didn't want to be embarrassed and tell Tom that she was afraid to fly. And so I wanted to point out there's nobody has a safe harbor when it comes to being afraid of flying. and thinking that you're special and you're the only one out there. So we hope that that's one of the things that you get loud and clear from coming to the shows every week, is that it's out there. It's a form of social anxiety, goes way back to when we were in tribes. Nobody likes to think that people would exclude them from the group. And that's why we get embarrassed when we're confronting that fear and making it public in front of other people. We had a question that came in. This is from Stephanie Koza. She said, I attended your class a few years ago and have overcome so much fear and anxiety over fear of flying with the knowledge I gained. I'm so thankful for your class. My husband is too. I fly about every 6 months now to keep up my skills. And yesterday, this was last week, she had a takeoff out of RSW, and it was noticeable as we rolled down the runway. We shifted from side to side. So if you can imagine being in the airplane and going side to side down there, it was. Can you explain the side to side movement? What happens, Eric, with a side to side movement before we've left the ground there? Oh, you're muted, Eric.
You gotta unmute Eric.
He flies so much better than he runs his computer.
I'm clicking on mute. Oh, there I am. So that's good. The mute part was when I was bringing up that I couldn't help but notice they were taking off out of Roswell, New Mexico. And I had to believe that the Martians were having some sort of significant impact on the pilot's ability to steer. But the real reason is that, as Ron points out, it's fairly important for us to stay in the middle of the runway for purposes of detecting if we have any kind of engine fault, need to make a takeoff on one engine. We want to have that lateral guidance. And so we'll make very small corrections, but rapid corrections as we go down the runway to make sure that we do remain in the center. And the farther back in the aircraft you sit, the more pronounced that side-to-side motion will be.
Like crack the whip when you're a kid. Remember, you grabbed hands and one end was the leader and the other one was tail end Charlie. And every time the group made a turn, it was greatly exaggerated for the last person in line. It's the same thing. So like Eric said, the farther back in the tail that you sit, the more you're going to notice things like that. But once you get airborne, it's going to be over. And it could be normally it's a crosswind on takeoff that drives that. It wants to, if it's coming from this side, it wants to push the tail this way and make the airplane nose go to the right, so that we have to make a left correction. But we're all over it, and we want to keep it on the runway, because you get no points if you leave the runway before you leave the ground. So, all right. Any final issues by any of the group here, or any questions, anything we need to address?
We had 2 answers to tonight's poll question, and both of them said, A, no big problem flying through clouds.
Okay.
In fact, Jim Duke said it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not a big deal for a lot of people, but for some people it is. So It doesn't matter, whatever it is. So, okay, so we want to congratulate
Stephanie Tolbert Polverisi.
2 Stephanies, okay? So I'm looking forward to talking with you tomorrow, Stephanie. And thanks to all of you, the rest of you, for supporting us every week. Fill out that, get on that EGTT. If you haven't done anything, the Turbulence guide, download that, sign up for a free coaching session. And remember to come back here every week. We'll be here waiting for you with Fearless Flight Live, and have a great week and stay safe out there. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye.